What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 53. My name is Brett, aka Enigma9011, and today, once again, I'm joined by Kev, making his return, long awaited. Hope you're doing well, Kev. Thanks for being on the show. Remember, guys, you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011 every first and third Saturday of the month at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join the chat, join in on the conversation. It would be greatly appreciated. Remember, guys, if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. We are over on YouTube.com. Search Enigma9011 where it's broken out topic by topic, but also put as one big video for your amusement. And we're also now on SoundCloud. You can get all of the podcasts in MP3 format, so you can take it on the go wherever you'd like to and listen to that. Give us a like over there. Spread the word. Thank you. And then we got our sponsor. We got the merch store. You can get all of your Enigma 911 swag over there. T-shirts, cups, backpacks, and more. Rep the brand. Support us. It would be greatly appreciated. I feel like I say greatly appreciated too much. Maybe I'll have to change that. But anyways, Kev.
Yo.
You haven't been on this podcast in a while.
Not since maybe early January, late December.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while. I mean, I was like a frequent contributor previous to that.
You were. When you were home, you were like almost every other week.
I mean, I was all like rage, you know? But, no, so it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. So, a lot's happened since, well, not a lot's happened. Well, some things have happened since the last time you've been on here.
Life has progressed.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be talking about that a little bit. I guess I'll just go right into my topic, because fuck it, we're going for it. So, you were supposed to be home from your latest trip out when?
June 23rd.
June 23rd. When did you actually get home?
August 24th.
So you're out in the wastelands of not America for a whole 2 extra months.
Yeah.
Now, during that entire time, I believe you were in one place, if I'm not mistaken.
During those 2 months?
Yes.
So for about a little over half of that 2 months, I was in Townsville, Australia, which is just north of Brisbane, which is a little bit more well-known of a city. Townsville is kind of a Boston Spa-sized area.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, about Boston Spa-sized, maybe a little bigger, not that much.
And then what about the remainder of that 2 months?
So from Australia, I had a 3-week straight underway where we were out at sea, didn't go into land anywhere.
Oh, okay.
And then we went to Okinawa.
Uh-huh.
And then from there we went to Sasebo, Japan.
Damn, okay.
So, yeah, my 6 months started in, Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to a place called Fujairah, which is part of, like, the overall country Dubai is a part of.
Yep.
Then I went to Oman, which is just south of Saudi Arabia. From there I went to this little island in the Indian Ocean called Diego Garcia, which is literally tiny.
Okay.
I mean, it's like a spit of dust in the water.
Mm-hmm.
We were only there for like a few hours. Then I went to Thailand, Okinawa, Guam, Australia, and then, Okinawa, Japan.
Cool.
Yeah, so
yeah, you were stuck at least in Australia for a while because some stuff was going on.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I guess my topic is, like, what did you do while you were stuck? Like, I don't know if you, like, guys still had work to do or, like, we talked very briefly about maybe some potential stuff you had to do, and we don't have to go into that, but, like, how'd you spend your time in Australia? Like, what'd you do?
Well, a big part of Australia was very similar to, in a lot of ways, it's actually creepy similar to the U.S.
Okay.
So I've been to the UK, and when you walk around the UK, you can't fool yourself into thinking you could be in the U.S. because, like, the buildings are really old and it's different construction and whatnot. But, like, Australia kind of came around as a country in a similar time frame as we did.
Yeah.
Not, like, independent, but, like, like, they're developing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, a lot of the buildings and whatnot are much newer construction, so, like, it just feels more like it could be, like, America. And, like, some of the way the town I was in was laid out, it felt a lot like San Diego.
Oh,
where, like, like, the houses are kind of tiered into, like, the hills, and it's kind of dry, desert-like.
Mm-hmm.
what was really weird to me is I went into a couple of Australian bars one night, and they were listening to American country music, and they're singing like Country Roads by John Denver.
Oh god.
And like they're singing about West Virginia and Kentucky, and I'm like, if you guys can even point that out on a map, I will buy your next beer for you, you know? And they're like, whoa, Kentucky, that's like near California, right? No. No, I mean, you know, compared to China, sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty close. I went and toward the outback, they had like this sanctuary for animals. So I wander into this place, and like a kangaroo hops up next to me, and there's koalas eating their eucalyptus and stuff, which they get all goofy and high from, and they like fall out of trees, and that's kind of funny. Really, it was just kind of like a lot of Australian cultures, like really honestly based around like their bars and their pubs. Like people just go to bars and pubs, and that's what they do.
Okay. And
so I spent a lot of time in places like that, like hanging out with people and getting to know people, and it's a really interesting country. I met some of like the local Aboriginal people, like they're native people.
Oh, okay.
You don't see, like, I didn't see a whole lot of them, but you see them every now and then, and they have a very tough situation, but not too different from like our Native Americans.
Okay.
Country itself is beautiful. I went hiking at one point to this, like, because I guess like that whole town was like the U.S. headquarters during the Pacific War. Like, I was at one building, and that's like where General MacArthur was like running the Pacific War from and stuff. That was like our town, and of course, being Americans, we come in and we're like, no, this place is not going to work for us. We need to blow up that mountain and stuff. And Australia is like, no, you're not blowing up our mountain, you know. But it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed there. I had one night, I went to a casino, which I never do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't gamble. And I've just never understood the point of it. I don't enjoy it. But I was like, okay, I'll go put $20 on the slot machine. I ended up walking out like a half hour later with $1,500. No, that's Aussie money, so it's more like maybe $1,000 US, maybe $950 US.
Yeah.
But starting out at 20, I was like, it's a night. So I ended up with a room at the casino, like at the nice hotel there. I was like looking out at the water and everything. That was pretty nice. But yeah, no, it was just every day though, just checking to see if I was allowed to come home yet or not, or like if it was gonna work out that I could go home. So it was like a long 2 months. Felt like it really went by slowly, that 2 months. But
so it was just pretty much just going out and doing stuff when you could. Like there was nothing.
Well,
that they
so
had for you really, or
no. So I was working full days.
Okay.
But you know, your typical work day, like on a weekend, usually about 8 hours. During the weekday, it can be anywhere from 8 to 12 hours.
Okay.
After that, you can go out, but you also need to, I mean, if you're smart, get some sleep before the next work day too.
Right.
And the problem for us was we weren't tied up at a dock in Townsville. We were out at anchor.
Okay.
And we were like not that close to land, so you had to take this little boat that would take you into land, and that was like a 45-minute boat ride. So like if you wanted to go out, you basically had to understand that 2 hours of your time off was going to be spent just traveling back and forth, not even in town.
Shit.
So like if I had maybe 6 hours of free time, I really only had 4 hours in town because I had to do, you know, the ride back and forth, and like there was only one boat, so when it left the ship, it would take almost an hour to get to land, and then
an hour back.
And it would be an hour back. So if you missed the boat from the ship to land, you had to wait 2 hours to be able to get on another boat.
Right.
So that was kind of inconvenient, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But you know, there was nothing you could do about it. So they did finally, like, and they had us on this sketchy little fishing boat. Like you see, like, those, like, charter fishing boats where people pay to be taken out to go fishing.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. And there was one day where the seas around where we were got really churned up, like, really rough. And they were about ready to like call it off, say like the boat can't operate like this, like the little boat. So I jumped from the little barge next to our ship onto this boat along with like 2 or 3 other people, and they got us to shore, but they ended up canceling all the boats for like 6 hours. So I was like, well, guess I can't go back.
Yeah.
So I just hung out, and then somebody finally called us and like, oh, we have a boat that's heading out right now. I was like, so I had to go back. But yeah, so you had full work days, and then, you know, you could go out after that.
Okay. Damn, that sucks. I didn't know you were offshore there.
Oh yeah.
Having a boat trip. That's.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, I figured you guys had like staying somewhere at least. I don't know. So yeah, you spent most of your time there. And then you went to Japan. You said 3 weeks, or at least different areas of it during those 3 weeks.
So this time I was in Japan for like maybe like 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
And that was just because the guy who was my boss, the chief engineer, was able to work out something where they'd let me go home and they would figure out what the problem was with people coming out to replace me on the ship.
Yep.
So I got to go home after 2 months.
Yeah.
And 2 months overdue. And so I hadn't told my family that I was coming home. So I was able to take a bus from where I was in Sasebo to the nearest airport, which was Fukuoka, Japan, which was like a 2-hour bus ride. Then I booked a hotel room in Fukuoka for the night because my flight was the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going into a hotel. Well, the bus dropped you off at the airport, but I didn't want to go to the airport right away because I had a hotel.
Yeah.
So I had to find a way to get from the airport to the hotel in a country where English is not that widely spoken.
Mm.
So like I keep repeating the hotel name to this taxi driver, and he's just looking at me so confused. So finally, like I pull up Google, and like it showed like the Japanese version of the hotel name, and he's like, "Oh, okay," and he took me there, and then I get to the hotel, and thankfully the girl there spoke English.
Oh, okay.
But the hotel rooms in Japan are tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like, I don't know, like smaller than this room by a bit, and like the bed takes up most of the room. You've got like a desk that's like tiny. The showers are built for people much shorter than I am, and the toilets are super high tech.
Mm-hmm.
They've got like this whole panel of buttons.
That's
there.
where they invested in the room. Was the toilet.
Hey, you know what though? It was kind of neat because like, if you pushed a button and you came back 20 minutes later and you had to use the bathroom, toilet seat was heated.
Huh. Okay.
Which I know sounds weird, very enjoyable.
All right.
And they also had something for people that are more shy. You press this button and it makes sound so people can't hear you in the bathroom.
All right.
But then, so the next day I go to the airport, and there was this dad with his, like, I would assume maybe, like, 12 to 18-month-old kid. I mean, probably 18 months because she was walking and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, like, you know, he's obviously I don't speak Japanese, but, like, you can tell based on body language what's going on. He's, like, holding up a bag of her little kitty snacks.
Mm-hmm.
And she, like, went to take the bag, and he, like, pulls it away, and he goes like this, like, now, to me, I'm thinking, oh, he's telling her she has to say please or thank you, whatever.
Yeah.
She stands there in front of him, puts her hands together, and bows.
Oh.
And then, like, I can't remember what she said. And I understood what she said, because it was, like, one of the few words of Japanese. Oh, she said domo, like, for domo arigato.
Yeah. So
he gave her the bag, whatever. And then, so, like, the plane I'm waiting to get on, that it's going to take me to Tokyo, like, lets off its passengers. So, like, you've got the glass wall where you can see the passengers getting out when you're waiting for your flight to take off.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so there's these line of Japanese people getting off the plane, and this little girl goes to the window, and every time somebody's coming up, she's bowing to them, and they're bowing back and smiling. I'm like, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Nice.
So then from there, flew to Tokyo to LA to San Diego, because the government wouldn't fly me to my house. They would fly me to my, like, where I'm based out of, which is San Diego.
Okay.
So I got flown to San Diego, and then the next day I flew from San Diego to Chicago to home. And I was able to drive up and surprise my family up at Lake George, and that was pretty funny. Because none of them had any idea, because I was telling them, I can't come back for 2 weeks or whatever. So
when you started figuring out that you could come home, like, it was some family friends or family that picked you up at the airport or figured that out for you?
Well, so what I had done was my cousin and her fiance, I was supposed to be groomsmen at their wedding, and they were really concerned that I wasn't going to make it back, so it was kind of, you know, they wanted me to be home, but two, at the more self level, it's like, oh, this could screw up our wedding a little bit. So I was keeping them updated so that they knew I was going to be home in time, so they could stop worrying about that.
Yeah.
And then I had told them I was going to rent a car from it's like Enterprise, I think. Mm-hmm. And because they give you the tools to build your career. But so I get to the Albany, and it's like 10:30ish at night, and in the last 2 days I've now flown like well over 20 hours, so I'm pretty tired, and I'm walking out to where the little waiting area is, and I see my cousin and my fiance, they're there, and they didn't tell me they were going to be there. I figured it's so late, why would they show up? And then my aunt was there, and I was super bummed for a second, because I was like, oh, they told everybody, you know, but it was just my aunt that they told, and she drove me up to the lake.
Oh, okay.
So I got up there at like 11:30ish, and I call my mom on the phone, and she's in the camp, and I'm like, hey, can you unlock the door? And she's like, what? And she was like asleep or something, so she was like, what do you mean unlock the door? I was like, can you unlock the camp door? I can't get in. And she's like, what? Are you here? It's like, yeah. And then she's like, they had the screen door open, right? But it was locked, you know, so like, but I can see through the screen into the camp. And she's up on the second floor, like, on the phone talking to me, like, oh my God, he's here, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, but seriously, like, I'm on the door, I can't get in.
Wow, okay, so you didn't have a ride until you landed.
Well, so I had a car rented through Enterprise, but I was able to cancel it when I saw my aunt. Like, I got on
I was
my...
gonna say, what the fuck, bro? I offered.
Well, I was just... So the plan was initially my sister... I had also told my sister, and she was kind of keeping me updated on where mom and dad were.
Right.
She's like, oh, they're going to be in Boston Spa for the night. I said, great. I'll drive up in the airport. It'll be like 25, 30-minute drive.
Yeah.
And then, like, as I land in Chicago, my sister's like, oh, Mayday, they're at Lake George. I'm like, God damn it, because that's now going to be an hour drive. Yeah. I'm really tired at this point. I'm like, it's almost midnight here. I'm thinking it's noontime, you know? So... my aunt said, no, I'll drive you up, because I was heading up anyway. So I canceled my Enterprise, and she just gave me the ride up. So that worked out pretty well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, wow. Okay, so how long were you flying for in total? So you went from Japan to LA. Yeah. I've never been out of the country, so I don't know how long that fucking would have been.
So it was weird. So I left August 22nd from Japan at like 10-ish in the morning.
Okay.
And I got into LA on August 22nd at around like 11 in the morning because of the international date line.
Yeah. So
the flight from Tokyo to LA is actually not that bad compared to other flights I've done. That was only 10 hours. Like the Singapore to LA one last year was 16 hours straight in the air.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
And then like the one I took to start this whole trip back in February was from I started in San Diego and flew to New York, and then from New York I flew to Dubai. So the flight from San Diego to New York was about, 5 or 6 hours?
6 hours, yeah.
And then from New York to Dubai was 13, 14, something like that. So the 10-hour one actually ended up being a little bit under 10, and that wasn't, as far as like a lot of my flights have gone, 10 hours was really not bad. It went fairly quickly, despite the fact I got put in this exit row seat, and is the weirdest thing I've seen. I hadn't seen this on a plane before. The fire escape or the escape door had this like weird hump in it.
Oh.
So like I'm not like I'm 6'1", so like is that average or like
It's a little bit more, but
okay.
I mean, it's not terribly out of the question.
But I'm sitting there with like my knees like this, and I was like so uncomfortable for 10 hours. Where like the last 2 times when I knew I was gonna be flying long distance, I just grit my teeth, went to the counter, and upgraded to business class, where like your seat becomes a bed, and it's like you're in your own little room or pod, which made flying so much nicer. But I only did that if the flight was going to be like 12 hours or more. Yeah. Because like being jammed into a tiny seat for 16 hours or so is, for me, possibly a form of torture.
Right.
So, but this time they had no seats available anywhere, so I was like, well, I guess I'll suck it up. Mm-hmm. You know, not to have like first world problems here. Trying not to, fly in a regular seat, but yeah, it was a long time in the air, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you'd been able to do flights like that, but the business class thing you just described sounds at least better.
It's a huge punch to your wallet.
Right.
Especially since you're doing it on the day of the flight.
Yeah.
So, it was worth it-ish, but, yeah.
And then do you just, like, are you like me? Do you just fall asleep on the plane?
No.
Or like, okay, so what do you do to survive? Because, like, man, I don't know. Like, the most I've done is 6 at one time.
Yeah.
But, like, when I've sat there for planes that's like, oh, this is 4, this is 2, whatever, the going from California to home, usually there's that layover somewhere. Like, I don't know, man. It's just like, this takes forever. And I just can't imagine, like, not sleeping on the plane.
So that's another reason why I consider it to be torture. Cause I see people around me that just knock out.
Yep.
And I get so jealous because it's like, for this person, this flight is gonna feel like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. For me, this flight is going to be terrible. Yeah. And like there was one time, I think it was from Singapore to LA. I took like sleeping pills, like the Tylenol PMs or whatever, which normally knock me out. Yeah. I woke up 2 hours later and I was wide awake. I was like, you have to be kidding me. Like any other time I take this, I'd have slept for 12 hours straight. But right. No. So, no, I have a hard time sleeping on planes. And I had a Nintendo Switch.
Oh, okay.
So I was playing a crap ton of Mario Kart.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
After 10 hours, I don't think I can play Mario Kart for like another while.
I don't even think I could get close to like, well.
What else are you going to do though?
I mean, yeah, there's no Switch options.
Well, I just gotten it. Like
I know. It's just like, imagine, like, okay, if you just got it, you can do all the Grand Prix, stuff like that.
I did all of the 50cc Grand Prix.
Uh-huh.
I did all of the 100cc Grand Prix. Uh-huh. And then I was just starting 150.
Okay.
Yeah, but that means I raced every race
at
2 times.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I mean, that's a little better. At least you had, like, things to accomplish. It's not like, because you mentioned to me off podcast, I think it was when you first came home, how you and your buddies were playing Mario Kart at the station.
Ship,
yeah, the ship, all the time. So I was a little concerned that it was like, oh God, he already had things like he had done, and he was just like racing for 10 hours for nothing. Because that, I'd be like, I could do that for an hour.
And then I was doing some of the balloon battles and stuff, which add like a little bit of a
variety, if that,
a little bit different. But yeah.
God. Okay. Well, I mean, Switch is good. If you ever go on flights again, then.
But don't worry, I downloaded Skyrim onto this.
There you go.
Onto the Switch, so there you go. I can play that. I can play that all day.
I know.
So.
Wow. Okay. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Did you do anything fun in Japan while you're there, or was it just so brief there was no time?
I really only had. I had one day to actually go out in Japan, Well, I mean, when I was on the ship, I went out. We went to this like really fancy Japanese restaurant where like you go in, you take off your shoes, sit on the ground. Well, not on the ground, but like on a really low lying bench, like you're at a low table.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got like the sliding panel doors and stuff. And
Cool.
the Japanese guy comes in and like so we're eating sushi. Like we have like a 5-course meal where they go through the entire Japanese cuisine.
Damn.
And like when they're cooking you fish, they bring the fish in live to show you that they're like fresh.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, this is neat. There's this type of, I think it's a fish or something, called abalone that was absolutely delicious. And I would have stayed out a little longer that night, but we have like these guys that are basically like interns on the ship, like what I did as when I was at school, where they come out and he was trying to keep up with some of the veteran sailors at the bar, which you just should not do when you're 19.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about guys who've been doing this for 30 years and they just drink alcohol and it's just whatever.
Right.
So I get a phone call or a text saying, hey, this guy is not doing well. So I find him out getting sick, as we know people do.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we know.
Including myself. And so I'm like, oh god. So I pick him up and I throw him over my shoulder, and it's like 2 miles back to the base. And so I got a fireman carry this guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's raining sideways, like pouring rain.
Mm-hmm.
And no Japanese cabbie would give me a ride because this kid is clearly going to get sick in their taxi, which I understand.
Yeah.
But I had to walk this guy, like, it was maybe a mile and a half back to the base with him over my shoulder. Then I have to, like, start slapping him across the face to, like, get him ready to go through the security checkpoint. Like, to get him back on base. And they're looking at me and they're like, sir, what's his deal? And I'm like, look, just, I'll take care of him. This is not your problem. Just let me get him through. And they were like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, oh, my God. That was my last night on the ship. I was having to babysit,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm checking on this kid every couple hours. So I got him to bed, and I'm like trying to make sure he doesn't, die in his sleep.
Right.
So like and it was just one of those things. Like I was just going out trying to enjoy one last night, and other people didn't feel like doing their shipmate any favors. They weren't trying to take care of him. So I was like, somehow this is my problem, and
Yeah.
it is what it is.
That
But,
stinks.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you home. Glad to have you back. Sounds for at least a while. At least from the current plans.
Yeah.
We'll
Current
see.
plans. Yeah.
If that.
Well, I mean, at this point, if they're gonna try and get me to come back earlier, I'm just gonna cut the cord. Be like, no, I'm done here. Thank you. Appreciate you letting me give you my life the last 2 years. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear you'll be around. That'll be fun.
It's gonna be good, man.
Yeah.
Rage.
Rage.